Weight shift controls 7-1 takeoff and departure climbs. The process of takeoffs and departure climbs in weight shift control aircraft with Tricycle landing gear is crucial and involves various considerations under different conditions. Thorough knowledge and faultless technique are emphasized, as the takeoff phase often poses significant hazards. Manufacturer recommended procedures outlined in the airplane flight manual or pilot's operating handbook take precedence over any information provided in next. The takeoff and climb maneuver, while continuous, is divided into 3 distinct steps: takeoff roll, lift off, and initial climb after becoming airborne. The takeoff roll involves accelerating the aircraft from standstill to an airspeed that generates sufficient lift for it to become airborne. Lift off, or rotation, occurs as the wings lift the aircraft off the ground or the pilot rotates the nose up to initiate a climb. The initial climb begins as the aircraft leaves the ground, and an initial pitch attitude is established to climb away from the takeoff area. Before taxiing onto the runway, the pilot must ensure the engine is operating correctly, controls are set, and the takeoff path is clear. At uncontrolled airports, announcing intentions on the Common Traffic Advisory Frequency or CTAF is essential, while at controlled airports, contacting the tower for takeoff clearance is mandatory. Caution is advised when taking off behind other aircraft, particularly larger ones, due to the potential for wake turbulence. Selecting ground reference points aligned with the runway direction aids in maintaining directional control during takeoff. In a normal takeoff, the aircraft heads into the wind or faces very light wind. The takeoff surface should be firm and long enough to allow gradual acceleration to normal liftoff and climb-out speed, with no obstructions along the path. Taking off into the wind reduces wear and stress on the landing gear, and a headwind contributes to airspeed even with the aircraft stationary, aiding in the takeoff and climb. The importance of understanding takeoff principles, following recommended procedures, and exercising sound judgment cannot be overstated in ensuring safe and successful departures. As the weight shift control aircraft gets ready for takeoff, making sure it's lined up in the right direction is key. Once the brakes are released, smoothly pushing the throttle to takeoff power happens, either using the foot or hand cruise throttle. Using the foot throttle allows for a quick change of plans if needed, but the hand throttle gives a stable setting without worrying about slipping off. Now, slamming the power on abruptly might make the aircraft yaw, and as it starts rolling forward, both feet should be on the front steering fork without hitting the brakes. The control bar feels more pressure as speed picks up, and keeping the wings level with smooth nosewheel steering is vital. Remember, you steer with your feet and fly with your hands. During the roll, the control bar pressure adjusts for optimal acceleration. You're steering with your feet, keeping the wings level, and letting the wing decide the pitch angle for the best acceleration. Now, liftoff is all about nailing that right takeoff attitude. The instructor shows you how it's done, but be careful not to go overboard with the control bar right after liftoff. Different weight shift control aircraft have their takeoff sweet spots, considering conditions like field roughness, surface type, and wind. Accelerating, you gently push the control bar forward to get the initial attitude for liftoff, also known as rotating. And as you leave the ground, you've got to keep those wings level and maintain the right pitch attitude. It's like a between the control bar and the wind. For a smooth liftoff, release the pressure for rotation smoothly. And in gusty winds, it's smart to get some extra speed before leaving the ground. If the wind gets tricky, keeping the aircraft on the ground a bit longer by pulling the control bar towards you can give you more control. So, that's the lowdown on takeoff. It might seem simple, but it's one of those things where knowing your aircraft, using the right moves, and making smart decisions can really make a difference. So, after the liftoff excitement, the weight shift control aircraft is climbing, and we need to talk about that initial ascent. Right off the bat, you want to be flying at a pitch attitude that lets you hit at least the manufacturer's takeoff safety speed. It's like finding that sweet spot for the best climb rate, the VY speed. But here's the thing, if it's turbulent, maybe go a bit faster to avoid any nasty stalls from gusts. Keep that speed steady, especially in case your engine decides to take a break. Higher-powered engines and bigger wings mean you want to avoid a crazy high-pitch attitude during this make-or-break takeoff phase. Trust me, you don't want to be stalling right after liftoff. Now, during this whole climb, don't forget to check your engine instruments. We're talking about proper cooling and oil pressure. You don't want your engine going haywire just when you're starting to enjoy the view from above. Hold on to that takeoff power until you're at least 500 feet above everything around you. That combo of VY and takeoff power gives you the best altitude gain in the time you're taking off. And that's crucial for maneuvering in emergencies. Your climb is your lifeline here, so make the most of it. As you soar up, make those tiny pitch adjustments with the control bar to control your airspeed. But hey, don't get too obsessed with the airspeed indicator. Feel the wind, trust the bar position, and glance at the indicator just to double check. Once you've hit that climb speed and got a comfy altitude, ease off the power to the recommended climb setting if it's different. Trim it out if your weight shift control is rocking those features. It just makes cruising at a constant attitude and speed a whole lot easier. And here's a pro tip. Don't go off course during your climb. Keep that takeoff path aligned with the runway, or you might drift into some not-so-friendly territory. Oh, and when you're gearing up for your solo flights, remember, it's a whole new ballgame without the instructor on board. The aircraft's performance changes because, well, it's lighter without your instructor. So, no sudden throttle changes, and don't let up after liftoff. The cruise throttle is your buddy in this solo adventure. Now, let's talk about some common blunders during takeoff and departure climbs. Firstly, always make sure the coast is clear before getting onto that runway. Abrupt throttle movements, letting off the foot throttle too soon, or ignoring those engine instruments after liftoff. Not cool. Also, keep an eye on that left turn tendency during takeoff. Overcorrecting for it or rolling too much can mess up your game. Develop a feel for your speed and how controllable you are. And don't forget that liftoff attitude. Smooth liftoffs are the way to go. And, of course, keep that VY speed in check during climb out.